So this is happening in the mid '90s. How did things play out with this in the next 5 or 10 years? So you're in the Army by this point, right?
So I got in, went to war the first time, had a really incredible kind of coming out story that involved war. It was pretty crazy. It's kind of why my whole LGBT thing is connected so much to the military. But when I came to terms with who I was, I guess I'll tell you about it. But it was basically during a firefight in Desert Storm. And I am a fire support specialist. So I'm a 13 Foxtrot. So we were artillery. So we'd be out in the front lines and we'd call for artillery to go in and hit the enemy or whatever. And when artillery hits around you, it's kind of the same people that are doing our job and they're homing for fire on you. And so we had an artillery shell hit to our left and it scared the shit out of everybody. Like, I was 19 years old and I thought I was going to die. I literally thought, oh God, this is it, because it was an 80-hour ground battle. We're all tired and this big artillery shell hits. And so we're all panicking. We're trying to figure out what's going on. And it hits on the right of us. And basically back then we didn't have the technology that we do today with GPS like it is now. So you would kind of hone in on people like that. You go left and subtract and keep going until you hit them. And so there was a second when I was 19 years old that I thought I was going to die. And I sunk down into my track. I just closed my eyes and I just waited for that shell to hit. Kind of like somebody maybe if their life was flashing in front of them. And I just waited and nothing happened. And I opened up my eyes and I saw a picture of my brother and his girlfriend that I had sticking up in my vehicle. And I just instantly started to cry. I'd never admitted to myself before that I was gay. But when I saw that picture, I realized that entire time that I've been alive for 19 years, I denied myself the truth that I was gay and that I'd never loved anybody. And I thought I was going to die without ever doing that. And that was mortifying to me. So that was my actual coming out to myself when I realized that I couldn't do that. If I make it through this, I'm going to live authentically. And so that's kind of the thing that precipitated me coming out. But yeah, it was, so I got out of the military, went to college. Really interesting stuff happened. Like a couple other neat stories are that, when I was in Germany, we got to go to Dachau. I got to go to one of the Holocaust camps. And it was kind of interesting because, I could care less about history back then. I was young, didn't really care as much about history as anybody else. And went to this thing, but my family was, weren't well-to-do, so they were never going to travel. My mom loves history. And I was kind of like, this is really cool. I can actually kind of take pictures and share with her kind of what I got to see and tell her that I actually went to a Holocaust, camp, not a museum, like the actual place where this actually happened. And I mean, just from the time we entered the gate and it said work makes free, and you're just like, oh my God, that's, that's weird seeing that in iron letters, that basically these people came here to die and were promised, if you work hard, you might be free or whatever. And then started going through and I'm taking pictures in this Holocaust camp of these awful things just to try to memorialize this to show my family. And so, there were just gross things that you saw, like the gas chambers and stuff like that. But I really got fixated on this uniform because it was this uniform that somebody died that wore. And I don't know why that resounded with me so much, because I just thought a human being, died that wore this. And it's all the wooden shoes that this person wore. And I just took a picture of it and I just snapped it, stuck it in a shoebox to show my parents later. Didn't think about it. So as I went to OSU and I was coming out, it was like, finding the wind under my wings, and everybody was like, it's okay to be gay and blah, blah, blah. And I was sticking pink triangles on everything and silence equals death. And I had a pink, triangle necklace. And it was kind of like, I don't care who knows I'm gay, and did that thing with that Dan Hazard guy, the article that I wrote. I pulled that shoebox out and I had been sticking those pink triangles that said silence equals death on my car forever, not really understanding them. Looked at that picture again after all those years, and that uniform had a pink triangle in it. And it's just like, I instantly just froze. And it's just like, I mean, that's probably where the activist in me was born, because I thought I could have been that person. That could have been me that died just because of who they were. And that was huge for me, and that was something that happened, kind of came out, like 96 or something. I ETS, I was officially done with the Army. So my reserve time was done. So they couldn't call me anymore. And it's kind of funny because over the years, it's like I would have nightmares about being back in and being deployed again. And it's like, I don't know, if you call it PTSD or whatever it is, but it's like literally I'd wake up in the middle of the night and just, be in a sweat because I thought I got deployed again. And I was over there again. And I was like, oh God, it's not, it's just a dream. It's just a bad dream. So around 2001 in March, I was working my first job after I graduated. This was after Strauss and everything had happened. Working my first job. And I was like, something, I think I might get back in the military. I was like, they offer great benefits and they could help pay for my college. It would help me pay back my student loans. And so I decided to get back in as an officer with my degree, which was dietetics. And so in March of 2001, I got back in. And of course, September 11th came, and then everything. It's like I have an impeccably bad timing for military service. We hadn't been to war since Vietnam when I got in Desert Storm, and that was the 90s, and then got deployed to go to Desert Storm. And then here I am in 2010, got deployed again to Iraq. It's 20 years after I'd been deployed as a kid, there. So as we're on this plane ride over to Desert or to Iraq, I'm looking around at the people on the plane, and these kids are 20 years old. These kids are the age of the span of my deployments. And that's when I just started second guessing myself, thinking, Jesus, can I do this again? And then I'm thinking in my head, I used to have these nightmares where and here it's reality. It's like happening again. And then all of a sudden, this is another LGBT thing, is that I'm snapped back into the present. This is the beginning of my first book, where somebody came on the intercom of the plane and said, ladies and gentlemen, tonight's in-flight movie is going to be Brokeback Mountain. And the entire plane just burst out into laughter. It's like, and they were all military people. They were all my unit and other units and stuff. And just burst out into laughter because somebody was joking, and they let him get on the intercom, and he said that. And, that was hysterical. Like, they would never show a gay movie on a military flight. And I remember just looking at that thinking, you guys are my brothers and sisters. You guys are who protects me if we go into war, and you're mocking me, and you don't even know it. And it started to build up this kind of thing that happened that escalated up until the Republican debate in September of the same year. But just lots of little things like that happened. And it was kind of like even picking that sticker back off my car when I rejoined. It's like that stupid sticker did not want to come off. It like peeled and cracked. And it was like, I had to sit there and just pick at it. And that would be almost a metaphor for how hard it would be to go back into the closet. And so many stories, like, Josh and I travel the country and talk about some of this stuff. But, when I got deployed the second time and had to leave, Josh and I hid under an escalator at the airport, crying and saying goodbye to each other because we couldn't let people see us, And,
your husband?
Yeah. The other families are out there, like hugging, and the wives are giving information and saying, if you need anything, call me. And here we are, like rats kind of hiding. And it just felt wrong because it felt like that, like I told that damn kid, I feel like that I'm fighting to protect everybody's freedom, except I don't have that freedom. And it just felt wrong. And that's kind of what led up to what happened at the Republican debate.
Who had you come out to up until that point?
In college, I came out to any of my circle friends, my parents eventually. So I was out, for the most part. But then when I rejoined, I knew that it would be really hard because I'd have to go back into the closet for anybody that I was in the military with. The place where I drill, or my base, is only like 8 miles away from my house. So there were so many times, like, we have a red, white, and boom, which is like a fireworks here. So I'd have, my soldier friends would be like, hey man, come and hang out with my family. We're going to red, white, and boom. And I'd be like, no, I'm not going to go. And then I would go down with my boyfriend and my friends. And then, I'm sitting there watching the fireworks and like, God bless everybody that serves our country and protects our freedom. And I'm just sitting there watching that and thinking, I have to hide who I am to be able to do this. And it just felt really wrong. And then when we were walking back that night, I was complaining. I was like, it's such bullshit that you have to lie who you are to serve your country. I'm like saying all this stuff. And then all of a sudden somebody kicks the back of my leg and it's my friend who invited me. And I was like, oh shit, and I grabbed the girl that was with us and introduced her like she's my girlfriend. And then the whole time you're just thinking, like, that's so awful to do to the person you're dating, how that feels for them, like that embarrassment or whatever. And there were so many times like we would be, in our house getting ready to go to bed. And then my friends would call and say, hey, we're coming over to play video games. And because I don't know if you see my sign behind me, like a big retro gamer. I built an arcade machine. I love, my whole sleeve is all arcade game. And so, they would come over and they would have a good time. And I would always, very, very controlled, closeted or whatever. And so if they would do that, we had a routine. We'd run around the house, take down pictures of everything because we didn't want people to know, like vacation pictures and stuff like that. And then the one time we were both sitting in the foyer and he was getting ready to do the normal drill of, leaving because I had to hide all the pictures. They were coming over. And then they called me back and said, man, we're not going to come over. We're too drunk. And I remember that was like a low in my life because I'm sitting there with all these pictures of vacations and then look over my boyfriend. I'm like, I'm so sorry. Like, it was almost like an apology of, I'm so sorry that this is happening. And he just looked at me and said, it's okay. I'm just going to sleep at home tonight. And I just remember that being a really, really low point as well. So that stuff was kind of the stuff that was all kind of building up to what happened on September 22nd.
Do you feel like anybody suspected what your sexuality was in the military? And if so, were you treated any differently?
No, I was pretty, I don't know, not stereotypical. Like, I don't like a lot of the things that people associate with gay people. Like, I don't really like drag queen shows. I really can't stand show tunes. I love classic rock. I'm just myself, and it's not saying that there aren't many people that like many different things, it's just all the stereotypical stuff. So I don't know that it was hard for me to hide who I was. But what was odd was that people would say, hey, I want a friend request you on Facebook. And I was like, oh yeah, sure, send me one. And then I just ignore it. And then they're like, did you get it? And I'm like, no. And it was really hard to find me because I had it locked down. And there would always be this awkwardness where I'm like, oh yeah, I don't know, I didn't get it. And they're like, I'm sure that whatever. And so that's the kind of crap that probably more than anything I had to dodge, those types of things. But I did have a friend. It's kind of funny because I have a friend that's a pretty close friend. His dad's a preacher. And I would invite him to stay over at my house for drill because he drove from Cleveland and had to drive quite a way. And I'd be like, you can just crash here if you want. And so one time, when he first came over to my house, it's like, man, this looks like a gay dude's house. That's what he said. It was because it was decorated. It wasn't like I didn't have beer posters up or tours or whatever. I don't know what straight got, like football. I don't know what designates a straight or a gay dude's house or whatever. But I remember he said that and I was like kind of on defense. And then, we ended up playing games and I didn't think about it much after that. So when I wrote my book, there was a chapter in it called This Looks Like a Gay Dude's House. And so Matt, when he knew that book was coming out, he about shit himself because he was like, oh my God, this book, like a whole chapter is going to be about something I said. And he's like, I need to read this, man. And so, and his wife had said some pretty homophobic stuff. And so he wasn't like an LGBT person at all. I would say he wasn't mean, but he definitely wasn't supportive in any way. And so I let him read my book before it came out. And, we went to training one time, and I gave him an iPad, put on an iPad. And so every single night, I could see that glow on his face as he was reading that. And he just read it and read it and read it. And it's like he didn't stop. It was like he was obsessed with reading it. And I didn't ask him anything about his reaction. And one night I was asleep, and all of a sudden somebody kicked my bunk and woke me up. And I looked up and it was him. And he had this eyes were just watering, like he was going to cry. And he said, dude, I had no idea. He was like, I had no idea. And so that's what makes me proud, because that's what my book did, was that it walks you through what it's like for somebody and makes you, that's how you win a heart and mind, is that you take them through and let them see what it feels like to have people say the things and go through the things you do. And that's what he said. He was like, I had no idea. And later on, he told me his dad was saying something negative about gay people. I was like, Dad, you can't do that. It's not cool. His dad was a preacher. And so he stood up for gay people. And I think that that's the way you do it, that you have to tell your story. And that's no different with the Strauss thing or sexual abuse. I think that I always say, trust the power of your voice. You have to do that. And I think that it's powerful. I think that at any time, Rosa Parks didn't know what was going to happen when she said, screw you, I'm not going to get up. I don't deserve to lose my seat here. Nobody knows what could happen just by standing up for yourself.